These are very bespoke, very sought after vehicles. I can do 6 to 10 a year, and that's about it. It takes the history of these trucks, it modernizes them, smashes them together, and it has a striking appearance and performance that you will not believe. Bad. It's the blood, sweat, and tears that makes these things special. This truck is the real deal. It's ready to go. The Dodge Power Wagon came out immediately after World War II, and we're in production all the way through 1968. They're some of the toughest, hardest working trucks that were ever available on the American market. When I was a kid, growing up, my dad had a Korean War Power Wagon, and as a little kid, he used to let me drive the thing. It was just this fascinating, larger-than-life kind of machine. And so I think it was some of those early experiences that just made me fall in love with these machines.
When Winslow started restoring power wagons in 2008, he wasn't met with too many smiles from his fellow restorers. Pickups were often treated as second-class citizens, but Winslow wasn't put off. He wanted to create a legacy in restoring these power wagons and was determined to give them a new lease of life.
This truck is the 118th Legacy Power Wagon conversion that we've done. As we progress through each one, we just keep perfecting that formula a little bit more and a little bit more. This project in particular was very interesting because the customer needed a very high level of finish on the interior to look like a real gentleman's truck. But he also has been known to really take his stuff out in the woods. Everything is here, easy to get to. Like if you had gloves on, you could jump in here and work on this thing and it really wouldn't be a problem. The door handles have all been upgraded so much that when you open the door, this latch triggers that step to come down. This is the part of the cab where we stretch this back 14 inches. There are some fine details here and some pretty important body lines. You need to maintain these perfectly. As you pull this back, you inadvertently create all these blind spots. So that's why we've added these, what Dodge would call a pilot house window. And one of the things that people love about these trucks is the wood bed. It's a marine grade mahogany. For the user, the first thing that you notice is, yeah, it is a little small in here, but I can already see how that extra room back here is gaining me so much. I'm a pretty tall guy, and I can move this seat back no problem. The air compressor, once charged, then allows you to operate your front and rear locking differentials. That's going to give you true four-wheel drive. All four tires have to spin at the same speed, and there's very few vehicles available nowadays that actually have that. You have a 5-speed manual transmission. That first gear is a granny gear. That is only for going really slow off-road. If you're driving around town, you're normally going to start this thing in second gear.
This perfect pickup has all the gear, making it smooth and safe on the open road.
So driving this Power Wagon is an awesome experience. It's unlike anything else in your garage. You've got this incredible presence as you're coming down the road. And when we jam on the brakes in this car, those are four-wheel disc brakes. And this thing stays really, really straight, even in threshold panic stops. I need that kind of confidence in all my vehicles, even if it's an old truck. It needs to stop in a straight line, it needs to have safe brakes, it needs to have some precise steering. Working on a classic piece of Americana like this, the question is, how can I make it relevant for today's drivers, today's roads, and not have the vehicle lose its soul? There is nothing that I'm more interested in than old trucks, the history, what they were used for. I take an enormous amount of pride in my work. These trucks are my life.
I wanted something alternative, but imperfect. We get a lot of grief from people. I don't really care. Each build is a singular, high-functioning sculpture.
Chatsworth, California. This may look like a parking lot full of rusting junk, But don't be fooled by the scruffy shells. The vehicles that leave the Icon workshop are unique reimagined classics.
Derelicts will never repeat the same build twice. Each one is a singular, high-functioning sculpture.
But why the unorthodox finish?
I wanted something alternative, but imperfect, so I didn't have to worry about it. But I didn't want to be that guy who's like super stressed out about the first scratch, the bumper rash, stuff like that.
And this vehicle is an epic two-car mashup.
It's technically a Chrysler Town & Country, but the front hood and grille is a like condition, kind of sort of the same green 52 DeSoto sedan. Bolted the two together, and then I was like, yes, okay, now we're on. Original car didn't have AC. All the knobs and the switches are still kind of sort of in the original position. For the modern AC controls, I could maintain the consistency, like same with the gauges. I didn't restore them and make them all pretty. Everything down to the acrylic and the typeface is authentic, but behind the scenes, it's all video circuit board, state of the art. And then the audio system, it's a Bluetooth-dependent digital sound processor interfaced amplified audio system with bass, meaning I just control it from my phone, and there's nothing visual that you have to interface with in the vehicle.
This was a 3,000-hour build for Jonathan and his team, and it comes complete with some quirky touches.
It's just fun to add a little bit of tongue-in-cheek, have a little sense of humor in these builds. With this one, I went to a really cool old aircraft surplus place and bought some vintage hardware that's used throughout the vehicle. There's a cool before flight release safety pin that I used as the hold down on the air filter enclosure. Overflow reservoir for the radiator. I scored a 1800s whiskey bottle. And then with all of our vehicles, everything has our mascot, the Icon lizard, on it. Fun thing with the Derelicts is he's never in the same place, and it's always responding to the shape of the car. Just feels natural, like he would sun himself there. He's right there up front on the hood.
Jonathan's company started out as a Land Cruiser service centre, and he wasn't prepared for the impact the DeSoto build would have on his business.
We're a little pinched. Is Thursday or Monday good for you? When I built this wagon, it was like a nights and weekends personal project. But then within like a week or two of finishing it, it started getting all sorts of love and attention. And next thing I know, it's on the cover of Hot Rod magazine. It won some design awards, and I was like, oh, I guess I can keep building these. Let's call them Derelicts.
And now, the Icon team are producing 10 of these one-off customs a year.
It starts with generally either a client has an appreciation for our antics and they come and say, I just love the concept. What do you want to build that you haven't built yet? Or it's hyper specific. Something that the client already has a deep emotional relationship with. Then I'll get kind of down and dirty with the client to understand a great number of things, including what's their style? What materials do you find appealing? How obnoxious do you want it to be? Do you want it to be fast, or do you want it to be stupid fast?
But despite business booming, not everyone shares Jonathan's vision.
We get a lot of grief from people with the Derelicts where they think we're idiots for putting all that time and energy into it, but leaving it looking as if it's left in the barn. You know what though? I don't really care. It's stuff that excites me. And the fact that it's not for everyone kind of makes it better to me.
The thing about lowriding to me is there's no rules. Any car you build that can ride as low as this van does gets the neck snaps. People are like, is that car floating? Does it have wheels? Why do I like old cars? I just like style. New cars do nothing for me. An older 50s, 60s, 70s car, they all were unique. They all had their own flair, and they said a lot about a person. I happened to see this van sitting on the street. It had cobwebs to the ground, and I asked the guy, what's the deal with the van? I asked him if he wanted to get rid of it. He said, give me $1,000, you could have the van. I called a tow truck, had it picked up. It had no rod in it. The body panels were pretty good. It had dents everywhere. It was original paint. It had all the cool trim. It had all the interior. I had no intentions of painting the van, but my buddy Tyler sent me a text. He's like, let's paint your van. When he wants to paint your vehicle, you're not going to tell him no. It just happened to work out for me.
Gary has spent just over 2 years customising this 1967 Ford Econoline Falcon Club wagon, lowering the suspension, upgrading the engine, and creating a mind-blowing custom paint job.
This van originally had pop-out windows, but they popped out from the side. Now it has pop-out from the bottom rear windows. Let me show you my 70s inspired lowrider interior. This van primarily doesn't have body mods other than a 6-foot hole I cut in the roof. I wanted to give it that one extra wow factor. Van Slam's got a 4.8 liter LS motor, came out of a 2011 Chevy Express van. This motor may look comfy in here, but it took quite a bit to squeeze it between the frame rails. My fabricator was very creative. He put a couple bump outs on the side of this engine cover, and he made it look like it belongs. It sure does one heck of a job to get this van down the road. The van's done very well at the shows I brought it to. I've got multiple awards at the Grand Nationals, and when I took it to the Autorama, it picked up a handful as well. People like the van. The van draws attention. I think that's probably the best thing about this van. You don't even have to like lowriding. You don't have to like classics. You see this van drive by, and it makes you smile. Lowriding to me is very unique, very personal. Some say you can't build a lowrider out of a van. I say, watch me.
The reaction when we pull up in the Soul Asylum H2 is always a wow. We usually start with sound quality. They just get used to that. We wham them on the bass. I'm Rafael Capone, the owner of the Soul Asylum Studios Group. And here we have the Soul Asylum H2. The amount of speakers in the Soul Asylum H2 is 86. We want sound quality at loud, natural volumes versus just blaring, hurting your ears loud. We've had many clients that use Soul Asylum Studios. T.I., Future, Justin Bieber, Rocco, Jeezy. The Soul Asylum H2, we use it for marketing, promotion, brand awareness, charity, competition.
Thank everybody for showing up. I'm sure Jason Smiley missed the show. Y'all probably already know.
We average at least 100 car shows a year. That's not including meets. We average just over 250, sometimes 300 to under 300 trophies a year.
I got something to say.
I made the Soul Asylum H2 because it isn't the first of its kind. And 1990, when I was still in the military, my first show vehicle was built. And that was my passion. Of course, I wanted to open up a recording studio, but I wanted to do both. So I built a show vehicle. It was called the Motown Soldier. It became world famous back then. So we got this in the end of 2014. In 30 days, we put all the LED lights on it. We got a system going in it. We put the wheels on it. We put the graphics on it. Started doing shows, and it was cool. When building it, my main focus was sound quality. I wanted to be loud, but I wanted sound quality. I wanted what I hear in the studio to hear on the road. All of our speakers are doing different things. So let's say we have 10 10s, 36 tweeters, 14 horns, 12 subs, 6 8 mid bass speakers, 8 mid-range speakers. We've been told up to 3 miles away we've been heard. Because sometimes on the weekend I'll prepare for a show and I'll be testing and tuning, and a cop pulled up. And he was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Hey, I have a championship show tomorrow. I'm trying to set the system." He was like, "I was 2.5 miles away and just followed the sound to you." I was like, "Okay, I'll cut it off." And he was such a nice cop. He's like, "I'm gonna give you 15 more minutes. I'll cancel all the 911 calls that's complaining about the sound and get your system right, and I hope you win." And I took those 15 minutes and I set the system. And when we did that show the next day, we came back with 12 trophies, one show. Trying to get 86 speakers, 11 amplifiers, 3 miles of copper wiring, 3 alternators, 7 batteries, DSP, and a vehicle this size. Everything had to be designed. Even our pillars, which are easy overlooked, are custom pillars that house tweeters. Of course, we have a red chrome wrap with the red chrome matching wheels, and then we have all of our microphone switches. So we can cut on up to 5 microphones and have 5 live mics going at the same time because we have a studio grade mixer. This is my favorite microphone, so it stays up here with me, but the mics we let people use are in the back. A nice iPad in the dash. And all our switches have been moved, but the coolest thing, we pull our iPad out, we still have our radio controls. On a quick glance, that's the Soul Asylum H2. A very diverse, multi-control, 86 speaker, mobile stage, sound quality, SPL build. The nice thing about the Soul Asylum H2 is it isn't slow. It's top speed, 105 miles an hour, and this big, beautiful, heavy vehicle. I'll let you guys just think about what it could possibly cost, but we did buy the Hummer used for $40,000. And if you just take our amps and speakers in a box, unshipped from Match Pro Audio, you're looking at over $35,000 just in a box. Best I can give you on prices. If we ever sold the H2, it definitely would have to be someone that was gonna use it for charity or use it for what we're using it for. It couldn't just go and be locked up in some garage. If someone offered me money to buy the Soul Asylum H2 without hesitation, it would be for $250,000. When it gets dark, the Soul Asylum H2 is bananas. We have won world titles for our LED lighting, interior and exterior. I'm a very humble person, but we made people change up their lighting game. We're very competitive. Yes, I go to the shows to compete and to win because I'm there representing my company at the same time. So we want them to win and earn those wins.